I greet you. Forever. The wounds are still raw, and I was not even born. The flashbacks are intense, and I was not even there. Through the years, I have carried in my spirit the brutal lynching of Emmett Lewis Till, 65 years ago yesterday, on August 28, 1955, at the age of 14. Emmett's mortal life was taken from him. The nation recoiled in horror at the gruesome photographs of his unrecognizable remains. His mother, Mamie Till, demanded that white America look upon her son. My mother and father, newlyweds then, were among the massive wave of young black people who left the Mississippi Delta that fall. Since 1619 and before, it has been going on. The death and mayhem, horror and madness of this American life. Every attack, mutilation, rape, arrest has been a full-on assault on black lives from the beginning. Black families all have their memories, ancestral and present day, stories to tell about the racist pogrom we have experienced in this land. Many of the night terrors have never been spoken about. The atrocities that took place in the bright light of day have been remanded to the shadows. The truth of the matter is, the evils of racism are too much for much of white America, and sometimes too much even for black and brown people to candidly consider and hear. The silence exacts its toll on all of us. Black America has suffered together, endured together, and struggled together as extended family. In the ancestral words of Africa, I am because we are. In the middle of the night on March 13th of this year, Tamika Palmer tried to find out what had happened to her daughter, Breonna. Intruders had broken in. Shots had been fired. Several hours went by. The police still would not let her in. They weren't telling her anything. Later that morning, she learned on the news that it was the police with their jackboots who had bashed in Breonna's door, sprayed her home and body with bullets, wrongfully arrested Kenneth Walker. They had killed her child. A mother's agony, a parent's pain, excruciating beyond words. Now in the 6th month, in Louisville, in the self-proclaimed city of compassion, in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, there is still no justice, no peace. My dearly beloved, this is why we march. In the midst of pandemic, natural desires, and political theater, the consequential meaning of Breonna's life is to be remembered and never forgotten. In this and every generation, with whatever it takes, it is young people who have led the struggle and given us hope. Today's movement is young, gifted, and black. It is queer and trans, and it is rainbow-led. It is full of leaders, and they invite us to say her name, Breonna Taylor. I am thankful for this Presbyterian Week of Action, our organizers and conveners, for all of you who have been named and are here. Our freedom struggle matures, gains new ideas, leadership, and terrain. With Nelson Mandela, we understand that freedom is a long march. With Angela Davis, we know that freedom is a constant struggle, where we are expected to cower before entrenched power. We say no. We reject non-solutions, hollow answers, outright deceptions, and formulaic responses. We demand justice for Breonna Taylor, her family, and all who love her. We demand an end to the carceral state in Black and brown communities. We demand an end to economic apartheid in our cities. We demand an end to inequitable health care everywhere. An end to the devaluing and dehumanizing of entire peoples. We demand an end to the devastation of our planet. Until the winds of justice blow everywhere, we will not be satisfied. The Bible text declares the race is not given to the swift. Our work on this day is not in vain. The moral arc does bend. Death and resentment do not have the last word. Sometimes it seems the change comes much too slowly. We take 2 steps forward and 1 goes back. But we will not give up. We stake our claim to righteousness. Justice will be done. Out of fierce love and respect for Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Jacob Blake, Tony McDade, Elijah McClain, Botham Jean, Tavon Martin, Michael Brown, Sandra Bland, Tatiana Jefferson, Tamir Rice, Ayanna Jones, and every Black life lost too soon. We are here breaking the stronghold of silence out of our anti-racist consciousness, out of our fierce indignation and response, out of our manifold uprisings, out of our disruptions of the status quo ante. Across this land, new movements, organizations, and lifeways arise. We embrace our common humanity, our oneness with each other as allies, partners, and friends. We are literally and virtually a people becoming in the streets and in the boardrooms, courtrooms, in polling places, and in the public square, and at the many intersections of our discontent. It has been said, our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of Black lives. Racism is America's original sin. State-sanctioned violence and vigilantism enshrined into law and encoded in custom are the perennial gatekeepers. The land that would become the United States was born in violence, and to violence it consistently returns. The purveyors of hate sow the seeds of our national discord with little fear as to the consequence. The defamation of character and the cause of death of Black lives spreads online as unfounded claims. The justice system and extrajudicial law alike have normalized Black degradation and brutalization. Our houses of worship, the education system, commerce and industry are hardly exempt. White supremacy, enslavement, segregation, incarceration, imperialism, exceptionalism, nationalism, militarism, fascism, xenophobia, bigotry, stigma, hierarchy, the will to power, heteropatriarchy, sexism, transphobia, homophobia, repressive immigration, all forms of hatred, lethal and evil. These are but a few of its many names. Cast in the guise of normalcy, structural racism inverts goodness, imputes criminality to color, and makes injustice seem just. Presented as immutable and fixed, racism is not really hatred. The overt racist accepted. Few whites will admit to this American article of faith. Racism makes a mockery of the America we say we long to be, with its designs to make the nation great again in its own divisive image. I dare to dream Martin's dream, that we can overcome the killing fields of our despair with a fierce resolve and dedication to beloved community. I would like to think this is a different time, a first time in the history of the United States, when injustices against Black and brown communities are made reprehensible, when racial justice matters most to all Americans, that Black lives, that brown lives, that poor lives, that all lives who have been discriminated against will not be buried again. I was invited somewhere 4 years ago to give a keynote address well prior to the last presidential election. Not everyone was pleased, Reverend Leonard, at my remarks. I reminded us about the dangers of fascism in our day and time, at home and abroad. People didn't believe me. They thought that I was going too far. America could never be so extreme. Kindred spirits, people of faith, companions along the way, I encourage you, I beseech you, I implore you that we must embrace this Kairos moment. Black people, people of color, and people of conscience coming together to commit to beautiful and radical change. Let us join the grassroots and stand for justice and foment peace. Be unflinchingly on the side of good trouble. May we speak truth to power, afflict the comfortable, and always comfort the afflicted. Refuse to be silent in the face of anti-Black violence and terror. Organize, strategize, analyze, and build consensus. Love as if your life depended on it, because my siblings, it really does. Challenge convention, dare to transgress, disrupt the status quo, advocate for the voiceless, give hope to the hopeless, dare to continue to believe. She was shot 8 times in her body. He was shot 7 times in his back, with a knee on their neck. Hands up. Don't shoot. I can't breathe. Our vow today is this: we will continue to protest and vote with our masks on, with our hands up, for love is what gives us strength. I leave you with these words. If you haven't read this week's Vanity Fair, if you haven't seen the beautiful story from Sister Tamika Pollard, I leave you with these words from her upon learning there would be protests this summer on behalf of her daughter, Breonna Taylor. And I quote, "And how do I feel then? Like, my God, somebody heard me. Like I finally caught my breath. That's how I feel. Like I finally caught my breath." My friends, let's make sure that all our goodness put together overwhelms the world. Amen. Ashe.